In my last blog, we talked about prioritizing the backlog for your organization. And I shared with you that Patrick Lencioni says that if you prioritize everything, you're basically prioritizing nothing. So, how can we actually articulate value to help us with creating a single prioritized backlog for our organization? I remember back in the days of our project management office where we used to have to share and compel our leaders to be able to say, these are direct costs that we'll be mitigating, or these are indirect costs, benefits for doing the specific projects or working on a product that we were working on. We said, well, if we took this work on, we could sell this many more widgets, and that would lead us to this many millions of dollars of additional profit. But things aren't really all that easy anymore. The problem is trying to identify what is driving the increased sales or usage. There are often so many variables changing in our world. How do we tie this to just one thing that we're going to prioritize in our backlog? Now, another issue is looking at articulating value for things like creating enablement or risk reduction. These things get even more gray. Yes, there is a risk that if you don't address that finding or meet that new rule or requirement, that there will be impact to your company. But how much impact? I had someone say, if we don't do this thing, the plant could be shut down and it will cost us X millions of dollars. Now, to be clear, if the plant were actually going to get shut down, it wouldn't be all year. That would likely go to the top of our backlog and be the top priority for the organization. Now, I'm not proposing that you don't follow the rules or regulations, but I often see compliance-related fixes that are way more complicated and way more costly than they really need to be. They also feel like they can skip that whole return on investment exercise because it is compliance related. I had a mentor, Chris. She said in a meeting something like, let's not just sweep this under as a guise of compliance. What's the smallest thing we have to do in order to be compliant? The enablement piece is also tricky. Let's focus on things like the data lake or artificial intelligence or machine learning. If we are able to capture all of this data and we're able to do A, B, and C with it, all of our products will be enabled. But it's still very gray. We're building a big platform to enable lots of different products. Or how about, hey, by painting the walls in the office a better shade of color, it will make our employees happier. Or by allowing them to work remotely certain days of the week, it will make them happier. There are going to be lots of things that are going to be a lot harder for us to articulate as it relates to dollars. So we have to figure out a way of sizing these and in some way that we can actually talk about. So to deal with these things, I like to do relative sizing for each one of these areas. So we have the money, which is both cost and revenue, 2, which is enablement, 3, which is risk. So we're going to go through an exercise of affinity sizing or relative sizing and compare them to each other and very quickly be able to say, how big are these things when it comes to value? And we're going to put them against each one of those 3 areas. And then we're going to ask people from the teams to come and help us with identifying the effort that's associated with each of them. And then on each one of these, we'll apply some sort of number. Some people may choose to use Fibonacci, others may choose to do some sort of factor of 10. It depends on your portfolio and how widely ranging each of the things are that you're looking at. So we'll add those numbers up for money, enablement, risk, and compliance. Add those 3 up and then divide it by the effort that the teams came up with. This is also sometimes called WSJF, weighted shortest job first. I just like to refer to it as ROI because we're really focusing on what is the return, the estimated value that we think that we're going to get over the investment that we're actually applying to the cost of doing this thing. Now remember that regardless of how we actually go about doing this, we could go through and actually do time studies and find how much we think that this is going to cost, but oftentimes we're spending more time trying to calculate that value than what's needed, because all of this is really just a guess. We guess that if we can save 3 seconds on a transaction and we know how many transactions, that we're going to be able to reduce our cost by X amount. But we know from history that that typically isn't the case. Whether or not we say that we try to just reabsorb work, or that we reduce the headcount in a particular area, those things generally don't take place. We really need to focus on how can we actually prioritize in as quick as a fashion as we possibly can the overall backlog of the organization. Now, if you have questions about prioritizing your backlog, whether it's for your team or for your entire organization with $1 billion or more, let me know. I can help you walk through this overall process.